and then like, oh, surprise. Instead of being proactive to communicate with the citizens about, hey, this is the possibility, and saying, you know, come to the table and give your input. Instead, we're moving processes, and I want to reiterate, development is important, but it's not important it's not as important as the integrity of our community and the people of our community. So that we need to really look into those things before we make decisions. And that's why this is here now, because this is us trying to be proactive and not retroactive as we've had to be in the past.
Their council, city attorney just reiterated the process that I shared with you. They cannot build anything. I just told you, we just received the plans. Public hearings is a part of the process, yet I'm hearing city councilmen speak as though you don't understand the process. The public is going to be invited. Everyone within the required statutory by law distance is going to be notified of this project and given that opportunity, and it has to come back to council after planning and zoning.
Awesome.
I like how you make it sound like the mayor has done something when I just told you and the city attorney said it's got to come back to you to answer those questions. The city attorney and I were discussing this. We talked about the plat stuff. So the things that are the due diligence is being done, but as Councilor said, there's nothing on Mr. Leverett, one more time and you'll be removed. Please, Chief, would you?
I'm leaving.
Council has to approve what's going forward. It's coming back to you after planning and zoning, and everyone in the neighborhood will have an opportunity to speak on it.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman.
Again, we don't want to play this game. We were just here, we were just in a meeting last month. We had the community of Alta Vista, at least 12 to 15 people in here, talking about something similar, our development process on 224 Oak Street. That's in the same neighborhood. All we're asking is that we have a process that you've identified, that the city attorney has identified, and we follow the process. If that was the process, how come you haven't brought to council an ordinance as far as about the permitting before having all the information, about giving the permit for clearing? All we're saying is we want to be on the same page. We understand the process, but we can't. For this particular one, because it has to go to planning and zoning, yeah, that's the process. But that didn't happen when half of Alta Vista was here at the last meeting talking about Oak Street. So again, from that process, because we don't have a city engineer, because we don't have all the other building official, we're trying to communicate when is the community, when is city council going to have a conversation about expanding or extending whether it be Alta Vista 2 or on that neighborhood. And that's why it's on the agenda.
Councilman Rowland, after 8 years, you don't know that you can build a house in an R1 situation. 224 Oak does not have a certificate of occupancy, and that's because in my capacity it has not been issued.
Point of order, we're not talking about Oak Street.
We're talking about Alta Vista.
We're talking about
and it was brought up.
I move that we move on to the next agenda item.
Second.
Councilman, before you can make a motion, you need, no, would you be
Call for the
quiet?
question.
No, until you
Call for the question.
You cannot make a motion until you have the floor.
There's no debate.
You don't
Call
just
for the
speak.
question.
No, there's the debate because there's no motion. It's an illegal motion and an illegal second if you have not been recognized by the chair. You just don't get to pop out with a motion because you want to. That is not going to happen. You need to learn Robert's Rules of Order if you're going to sit up here. Now, we can go back with and pick up on, but there's no motion to vote on because you illegally had the floor. The chair is not entertaining a motion that was not properly recognized. Read Robert's Rules of Order. You've been up here 8 years. Item number 2, I am. You're the only 8-year person. Item number 2, discussion and possible action to provide direction on the drafting of a resolution, adopting a policy regarding spending within the budget. Councilman Rowland, you have it on agenda again for the 3rd month in a row. Are we passing?
What's funny?
That's what I don't understand.
Taking care of business.
Y'all act like
That's what happens when, you know, youthful ignorance. Your item.
Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna ask you that you talk to me with respect, because I'm a grown man. And so I will refrain from going back and forth with you, but I ask that you respect when you're talking to me. It's on the,
It's mutual. Item 2. Go.
it's on the agenda. I don't know if, we're supposed to be adopting the spending policy resolution. This is the resolution that Mr. Zach and I talked about, and myself and JJ talked about. I don't think we have anything currently at this time to submit to council. It's just something that is in process.
Okay, item 3, discuss and possible action on updating an ordinance for departmental reports to be placed on the city council agenda. Councilman Rowland.
I had questions before you moved along with the agenda. That was stated.
Hold on. You don't just speak out, Councilman Jones.
You
can't move the item.
You can't move the item until we discuss.
Yes.
We didn't dis.
He's passed on his issue.
No, I made a statement.
You
I
want
said we
discussion
can't.
on it? What do you want to do on item 2?
On item 2, I communicated where I'm at. Anyone else on the dais has the opportunity to speak on number 2, but I've given my portion before you can move to number 3.
So may I ask my questions?
Ask your question, Councilman Jones.
Thank you. Councilmember Rowland, what is the objective or the end goal that you would like to see come from your item number 2 in the future?
The end goal or the objective of the adopting a policy of spending within the budget. Right now, we have a general fund budget, which means it's open. There is no itemized list, there's no individual itemized list like 1 through 1,000 that say we move from item 2 to item 10. And what we're trying to do is develop a policy that allows us to be able to specifically highlight all the different accounts within the budget for spending, similar to the policy that y'all passed for city council.
Similar to the one we passed for the travel.
City council travel, yeah.
JJ, could you tell us some pros and cons upon the direction in which he's trying to go in? Excuse me, Mayor, may you turn off your mic because that causes that. Thank you.
Okay, I just happen to have a budget with me. The budget is itemized, okay? But what Councilman Rowland, and we talked about it, is that you can look at one of the itemized line items, and if you wanted it separated more, for instance, let's take street maintenance, okay? Street maintenance, we include a number of items in there, all related to streets. But now, if you want to separate ditch, culverts, tree cutting, you could. We can go in there and do that, if that's what you want to do. I personally don't recommend that you do that on that. But again, you would look at all the different items on the budget and see if there's any one of those items that you do want to more or less divide it into other items, where it won't be just one item. For instance, your city council, it's one item. But y'all within your own area of decision making, y'all set a separate policy for that one, for just y'all's money, between whether you use it for travel, but basically you just said split the money with 5 ways among yourselves. That's it. And that's just a policy, that's all for that item. But in the most part, your budget is a line item budget, and it's already separated into all the different line items that we possibly could separate them into. But if you see one that you do want to disseminate it, then fine, we can do that.
Anything else on item 2?
Yeah, so with that being stated, Councilmember Rowland, may you bring I guess whenever we have it on the agenda again, the items in the budget that you would like to see broken down even further, so that we don't do the whole budget like that, because in some assets, that actually help us more than hurt us, and then others, it'll be a benefit.
Yeah, again, we would like, my proposal is to move forward when we get this would be to do the whole budget, because then we would be able to know what's coming in and what's coming out. The example we use in reference to street maintenance, for example, last year's budget, there was an approval for some trees to be cut in certain neighborhoods. There was taken out of a general budget. We wanted to make sure that when we were talking about ditch digging and street repairs, that there was an itemized number in those, so we're making sure we're balancing all those things throughout the city. That didn't happen last year. All we're trying to say is, because we have a new process in which we're doing these things, that we set out a budget to make sure that we're doing some annual upkeep throughout the year, versus all the money going to street maintenance or all the money going to, whatever it may, under that line item. There's so many different line items within the budget, and we have general categories, and so, but yeah, I can bring that when we move it forward.
Mr. Johnson, please clarify, last year, in our discussions, weren't the funds that were used for tree cutting out of the street maintenance budget that allows for street cutting and crossover into the trees?
Yes, they were.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure the record was clear.
They were.
Okay. Item 3, discuss and possible action on updating an ordinance for departmental reports to be placed on the city council agenda. Councilman Rowland.
Again, I had a conversation with Attorney Zach. I don't know if he was supposed to be getting me some examples of the departmental reports from since what we had didn't work. I actually found a couple from some other places, other cities, municipalities, and so I think we all, last meeting, council wasn't here. We had another council. I don't know if she translated that message in reference to what we're trying to do as far as getting departmental reports. And so I think with the email that he sent to all of us, it talked about making sure that the citizens had proper notification of what we discussed, but I went to a couple other cities and pulled up how they list their items in reference to staff reports, city administration monthly activity reports, and it lists some things that are general but enough to get the information that we need. So I don't, again, this is a question to council, because this is something that we all ask for council to get back to us on. I'm just the one who asked for it, but it's council since he's the one who said that we couldn't have departmental reports the way we previously had it, they should be finding out and presenting to us some options on how do we have the same impact, but legally doing it. And I have some examples, but again.
Yeah, the issue with the, it's a Texas Open Meetings Act issue. So it's been determined that you can't just say city manager report or police department report, or public utilities report. That's too broad of a statement. So the agenda has to list more specifically than just a report is going to be held. And how you do that in advance without listing every single possible thing that would be on a particular report could be problematic. And the problem we were getting into was that it would say police department report, and then we'd start getting into some pretty detailed discussions about minor things that were on the report that, in my mind, the public would never have known was going to be discussed that in depth based on a statement that said report. And that's my concern. So I'm not quite sure how to solve that problem moving forward. I appreciate that other examples were provided, that you found other examples for cities. I'm sure there's lots of examples about there how other cities do it, but I would just state this, and this is why you hire, I'm not their lawyer, so I don't know who approves their agendas and whether or not, you know, what they're doing. Maybe it says police department report, and they're not even given a speech about it. It's just listed on the agenda, and then there's information in their packet, which is perfectly acceptable to me. If you wanna say police department report, and it's listed in your packet, which what we have now, I'm perfectly okay with that. My concern, though, is that if we start getting into detailed discussions about things that are not specifically listed on the agenda.
So some of the examples, like this example says police department monthly activity report, then under that it says traffic enforcement.
Perfect.
It asks criminal activity within the city. It says code compliance enforcement, right? And so I want to be very clear, this is to make sure that we're getting the information to be able to communicate to citizens. It's just like our budget right now. We get a budget, a piece of paper, we get the monthly reports from the municipal court, we get the monthly reports from the police department, and there's nothing that we can ask questions on or talk about it unless we go back to the next subsequent agenda and put it on there, and that makes absolutely no sense. And so I want to be clear, understanding the law, but also we're asking you as an attorney and your firm to create a policy where we can put our departmental reports, how we have, and I got some examples. It says like for Public Works, we don't even get so we get the report from USW. We don't know if we're spending under, over, or where we at. So it says Public Works monthly activity report, streets and right-of-way maintenance, drainage and facility easement maintenance. Then it just talks about public work projects and city parking lots, right? And so I have some examples, but again, I just want to be clear because we're responsible when people are saying, well, you've seen the budget, you've seen this item, how come you didn't say anything about it? And we're like, oh, it was buried in the papers and we didn't have an opportunity to talk about it. So again, we can hopefully work on something and we'll have something for council at the next meeting.
Item 4, discussion and possible action on the resolution of the City Council of the City of Prairie View, Texas, establishing a policy and procedure for the payment and reimbursement of travel and training of City Council members. Councilwoman Williams.
This was on the agenda a couple of months ago, and then I asked if we put back on the agenda after the council. We had an opportunity to read over it, and then Mr. Zach, they wanted some changes made.
I'm not aware, I was never given any direction to make any changes to that ordinance that I'm aware of, unless I'm wrong, which is always possible.
Councilman Wallace.
Was that when we were talking about 20%? So that we didn't put. Okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to be changed to 20%.
Councilman Williams. Okay.
So did I miss something?
Councilman Jones.
I don't have anything prepared. I didn't realize that my office was asked to make changes to the ordinance.
Okay, so we're gonna pass.
Yeah.
Well, no, I want to, if it's on here, let's get directions so that I can make sure I make the
We had a
change.
discussion about it, and I don't think maybe it was made clear that they wanted some changes and they wanted the 20%, because I had made the comment that we actually had
Okay.
like $10,000 to be spent among the 5 of us, which we know is like $2,000 and some dollars, and then it was said that instead of putting that, it would just be the 20%. And I don't think it ever got the clarity
Okay.
to you that we
Okay.
needed to change it to
So
say that.
can you and I then get,
Yes.
if we have consensus of the council of generally what she's talking about, can you and I get together after the meeting sometime this week, and that way I can get the changes when I'm getting
Yes.
prepared for the next meeting? Okay.
Yes.
So you all will get together
Yes.
and get back with us? Okay. Item 5, discussion and possible action on the resolution as ratification for the active shooter grant. Attorney Zach?
I believe Sarah Griffin told y'all last week that this would be on the agenda, that a grant, the mayor has more information about it than I do, but apparently a grant was submitted. They needed a resolution, the deadline was coming up, so the resolution was provided, and we just need a motion to ratify the resolution tonight.
Chief, you want to chime in on that and get them updated on what the active shooter grant was, and we were just short on time.
Yeah, we were short on time. Last Friday, Ms. Good had gone to the grant meeting where she presented the grant, presented what we were looking for on the grant. And what we're looking for is an active shooter seminar. We're gonna do that, which will include not only council members, citizens, EMS, fire, and all the other agencies in this county. We'll have to set it up, but it was a little bit too late to get it onto the agenda, so we weren't able to get it onto the agenda. So the attorneys did some attorney deal to at least get it before you guys, and then
And
they would
basically
come back.
now we're back to ratify the fact that we move forward.
That's
and
correct.
Right.
If that's something the council is not adverse to. Councilman Rowland?
Mr. Mayor, or I guess it's Mr. Zach, is that document or the document in our packet, do we have?
I'm not in charge of putting the packet together, so I'm not sure.
We,
You had it last week. I mean, last city council meeting.
we need it in front of us today.
And the purpose of that grant, the active shooter grant, would you share that with the council for the edification of what you?
The purpose of the grant is, you know, we had one last year that was put off. It's to keep those things active and keep the community and the schools and the citizens all knowing about active shooters, because active shooters changes all the time. And so that's why when this grant here came up, we decided to go for this grant as well, and since it was out there. And so it's just to keep everybody and keep everything updated on active shooters.
We can get a copy of it. I
Yes,
believe
can
it's-
we get a copy?
Can we get a copy? We can, if we can pass on,
Move it.
just move it down and give her an opportunity to get it. Is that all right with everybody?
I know that it was said that there was a deadline coming up. Is the deadline coming before the next meeting?
The
Yeah,
the
deadline
deadline
is
has already
passed.
passed, the resolution was submitted, so it's done, it's a done deal. We
Yeah.
just need we just need an emotion to approve the resolution, but I understand they'd like to see it, I totally understand that, we can get a copy of it for you.
Yeah, so I participated in last year's active shooter, myself and the mayor. It's great, citizens and everyone can come out. I just want to get a copy in my hand, so if we can get that at the end before, so we can move forward.
Item 6, discuss and consider resolution removing and adding signatory authority to the city's bank accounts. And I believe that's in, I hope, council, it's in council's packets. It was removing some prior and basically adding Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
That's the one that says Ms. Dickey and,
Yeah, she should have a copy of that resolution.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Wallace?
I move that we approve. I move that we approve the resolution removing and adding signatory authority to the city's bank account.
It's been properly moved and seconded that council approve the resolution removing and adding signatory authority to the city's bank account. You've heard the motion, ready for the questions?
No readiness.
Councilman Randall?
Just a quick question as far as open records go. Does the agenda item not have to specify who we're adding to the signatory? I'm not,
Sherry Johnson?
I'm saying, but, because this is
It was originally on there and it was updated and streamlined, so I'll let Counselor.
I'm just adding.
I just drafted the resolution, I don't know anything about
So,
why it's being done or who's being added and just
so my
pick it up.
question, my question is, for the agenda,
Oh,
since it's a, you know, a legally binding document, is the agenda supposed to clarify who we're adding to and who?
No, sir.
It may not
No,
have to
sir.
say who we're taking off, it doesn't.
it's not required to be on the agenda. This is sufficient information to let the public know that we're talking about adding, removing and adding signatories to the account. So if they wanted to show up, they could do so.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Yes, sir.
In the past,
No.
we've had names. So I'm
No,
making sure.
that's not required. As a matter of fact, I usually prefer not to put the names in case we get the names wrong on the agenda. And so that's my preference.
Copy.
it's a fine line between enough information and, too much.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed have the same right? Ayes have it. City council reports. Councilman Rowland.
Good evening, citizens, community members and neighbors. It's always a pleasure to serve. Again, just highlighting the 50-year city jubilee, which will be, the parade will be April 13th, which is this Saturday. Please come out and support it. They're going to start at Jones Elementary. That same day on April 13th, we have a young man in Troop 1906 who's be working on his Eagle Scout project, Darren Skeen. That time will be from 2 to 6 here in the community. He's going to be putting reflectors on the streets and painting the fire hydrants in our community. So if you want to come out and support, you can meet at the Prairie Fire Station at 2 p.m. We meet in this building on the first and third Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Had the opportunity to participate, to welcome some students to the city of Prairie, so I want to thank the city staff who helped me to be able to coordinate that. We had students from the British Virgin Islands. They came to our community, and I had the opportunity to welcome them here at City Hall. Sergeant Garrett also was able talk to the students because they were here from the British Virgin Islands from a Seventh-day Adventist church school. So they were 4th form and 5th form students, and so they had the opportunity. They went to Hockley to go to a fish hydroponic farm in Hockley, and they had the opportunity to go to Prairie University for 2 days to go on a goat farm and do some things. They're at an ag school. Also had the opportunity this last, didn't just get back, but Thursday through this weekend, went to a conference for local progress, had an opportunity to have a lobby day. Had an opportunity to meet with Representative Cecil Bell and Senator Coker's in reference to 2 important bills, House Bill 2 and Senate Bill 2, that's very important to our community, or majority of municipalities around the state. And we want to, and I will be at the next city council meeting putting together a resolution along with some of my other colleagues to be able to pass just in opposition to both House Bill 2 and Senate Bill 2, which would cap, which would be a revenue cap on our city. Great conversation at the conference, and I'll be, again, I have 30 days to get my report, but definitely some great information in reference to something called a complete count committee, and that's for the census, and that's where we start to get energized for the census that will be in 2020. Again, thank you for allowing me to serve.
I'm going to be extremely brief. We are STAR testing for our children in this community. This week we began STAR testing, so I just ask you to just pray for our kids as they take these tests. Pray for their minds, pray for their mental health as well as their educational transition from what they've learned throughout the year so they can do well on these tests. That's all. It's always a pleasure to serve.
I'd like to leave you guys with a quote today. I'd like to leave you guys with a quote today by Malcolm X. I'm for truth, no matter who tells it. I'm for justice, no matter who it is for or against. I'm a human being first and foremost. As such, I'm for whoever and whatever benefits humanity as whole. It's always an honor and a privilege to serve. Thank you.
Councilman Williams.
I just want to thank all the citizens that came out today, and I ask you to continue to come out and participate as well as pray for us and support our city council.
Councilman Wallace.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to first just recognize the council, the mayor, and the citizens, everybody that does good work within the city. We're a village, and it takes all of us to continue to do what we need to do, and I think that we always need to be recognized for things that we do. Me and Councilman Randall, we been working on the community engagement board that he first announced earlier this year. And so as we start moving into closer stages, we want to start having some community meetings for it. We just want to try to iron out all the details so that we can give as much of a completed project so that the citizens can have more than enough ways to have their voice be heard. And with that, I thank you, and it's a pleasure to serve the great city.
For the mayor's report, there are a few things I want to share with you. We had the FEMA site inspection. They were going around following up on what the engineer did with the status, structure, and me and two of the inspectors went on the roof. Judge Alexander was actually going to try to climb the ladder and join us, and I cautioned her against that. But we're in the final stages of getting our repairs on the building done from Hurricane Harvey, and because we were hit pretty hard. The U.S. Department of Commerce EDA emergency funds application, it appears that because of getting a last-minute go-ahead, that I'll be actively involved in trying to prepare that application, because we don't have time to post it and the 30-day notice to get the people who typically help us with these things. So rather than let it just fall to the wayside because of our limited staff and resources, I'll be working on that myself, and there may be someone who's trying to assist me. Attended Miss Evelyn Santee's funeral this past Saturday, her homegoing celebration, one of the original 14 farming families, and very, very long time member of the community. She was 96 years old. Had to spend half a day in court in preparation for a trial that didn't happen. It was settled. MOU with the PVA-MU College of Agriculture, City, Prairie Cricket Association. The College of Agriculture is assisting and working with the Cricket Association on doing grounds. They're talking about doing greenhouses and maybe even botanical gardens. It's just all up in the air, but again, a collaboration of our local entities working together to give us more and make the city more attractive. Trees for Houston. We'll be planting 400 trees in and around the Prairie Cricket Complex. So that will be coming, and again, they'll be working with agriculture and maybe some other students who want to volunteer with that as well. Met with a developer with Marriott and Hilton, and that went very well. So they're following up. They've done some preliminary studies being done to see where they may be able to put a location within our city. The Prairie View Chamber of Commerce installed the vice presidents appointed by President Miller. Spanish, in touch with Dr. Dupree at the university for a couple of years and back and forth, and we finally rounded it out where we're going to start with our first responders, learning some basic Spanish. Been in touch with the fire chief